had 2 waters. I was like, which one's mine? John's like, they're all yours.
All yours. See, that's true power. When you're the mayor.
All the waters.
All the water.
And no ice. You know why? Because I chew ice. There's ice in my cup. I will drink it, and then I will chew it. And it'll be like crunch, crunch, crunch. Yeah.
Well, all the water. Ladies and gentlemen, your seats, please. If we could take our seats, please. We need some crowd control over there. There's some policemen wandering around, not seated. Before we do anything, we have a special announcement from our brilliant sponsor, London Hydro. And I'm going to ask my dear friends at Encore back there to roll tape. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling empowered. Thanks, Isni. Welcome to the State of the City and one of the largest crowds, the largest crowd that we've had since pre-pandemic. So there must be something in the water or something in the air that is getting folks excited. So welcome from the Chamber of Commerce. We've had a fantastic year of our own. We're closing on 1,000 members. That's great for us. This is one, as some of you may know, the largest, if not the largest event of its kind in the country. We at the Chamber, as you know, have our vision for economic prosperity, social progress for all, which is why we remain so committed to reconciliation. As a business organization, we acknowledge the prosperity of the settler economy and that it has been built on the dispossession of Indigenous peoples and the ongoing impact of colonial policies, including law, finance, land use, and labor. We also know that land acknowledgements on their own are not reconciliation. They are only meaningful when they are paired with sustained action and accountability. So, guided by Indigenous partners and building on Indigenous-led work, such as our storytelling publication, Shared Waters, which you may see scattered around the city in waiting rooms, also our Indigenous allyship in the workplace initiative, and Indigenous-led focus groups that informed our new strategic plan, the Chamber commits to the following. 1, Indigenous-led reconciliation. We will not ask Indigenous peoples to solve the problems created by our institutions. Where we engage in reconciliation work, we will do so under Indigenous leadership and guidance, and we will recognize that the responsibility to change Chamber structures, practices, and advocacy rests with us. 2, supporting Indigenous economies. We will work to make the Chamber relevant, accessible, and useful to Indigenous-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, and First Nations, including by removing barriers to participation, tailoring services in response to direction, and advocating for policies that support Indigenous economic self-determination. 3, using our advocacy voice responsibly. As a premier business advocacy organization, we will, when requested, use our platform to amplify Indigenous priorities, including those related to land, water, housing, employment, procurement, and cultural rights. And we will seek alignment with existing Indigenous-led plans and calls to action. We will respectfully seek guidance where economic imperatives conflict with Indigenous rights and navigate these conversations with care and commitment to our relational responsibilities. 4, investing in learning and accountability. We will provide ongoing learning opportunities on or about our settler colonial history and context, as well as Indigenous histories, rights, and contemporary realities for our board, staff, and members. And we will report regularly on our reconciliation commitments so that Indigenous partners can hold us to account. 5th and finally, sustaining relationships. We see this statement as part of a longer journey of relationship building with Indigenous peoples and in neighbouring London. We will continue to meet regularly with Indigenous business and community representatives, listen to honest feedback, and adapt our work in response. This statement is a living document. We commit to reviewing and revising it in partnership with local Indigenous peoples so that it continues to reflect their guidance, their rights, and their priorities. Thank you. So folks, I would now like to introduce your chair of London Chamber's Board of Directors, Mr. Dipesh Parmar.
Thank you, Graham. And good morning and welcome to the London Chamber of Commerce's 47th Annual State of the City Address. My name is Dipesh Parmar. I'm the board chair of the London Chamber of Commerce and a partner with PwC Canada, and it's a pleasure and honor to be with you here today. I want to start by thanking each of you for being here for what is His Worship Mayor Josh Morgan's 4th State of the City Address. And as Graham mentioned, this event has been and continues to be the largest State of the City Address anywhere in Canada. And each of you are the reason for that, so let's give yourselves a round of applause. I also want to express my gratitude to the entire staff of RBC Place London. This has been our home for the State of the City Address for as long as I can remember, and we're fortunate to have such an incredible venue to connect as a community. So please join me in thanking all of the staff and the board of RBC Place London for this delicious breakfast and their hospitality. I'd also like to thank the mayor's staff for their hard work and dedication and preparation for this morning's address and all they do for our community throughout the whole course of the year. So we have a full and exciting agenda ahead, but before we begin, I'd like to recognize our generous sponsors whose support made today possible. And in the interest of ensuring each sponsor gets their well-deserved recognition, in the short time I have to acknowledge them, I've been asked to bring back the famous clap. For those of you that aren't familiar with a clap, it's simple. When each sponsor is announced, give them one big clap, just one. And with over 1,200 of us in the room, it'll ensure that every sponsor receives the appreciation that they deserve. So before we start, let's give it a practice run. So all together, on the count of 3, I just want to hear one clap, your clap. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. So I'd ask you to do that after I recognize each of our sponsors. Our platinum sponsors, Deloitte, Enbridge Gas, Labatt. Our silver sponsor, Covent Garden Market. Our bronze sponsor, Learners, M&P, Manage Point Technologies, WFCU, our Chamber Benefits Program, our community sponsor, Bell Canada, our AV sponsor, Encore, and our live stream partner, Streaming Inc. And finally, but certainly not least, we extend our sincere appreciation to our principal sponsor, London Hydro, whose long-term leadership, commitment, and partnership we are truly grateful for. We can give them a longer round of applause, that's fine. Now please join me in welcoming the CEO of London Hydro, Mr. Usni Semsadini.
Good morning, everyone. You know, I always get nervous about power outages when I'm in certain rooms. This would be one of those rooms I'm very concerned about it. It's my hope that RBC Place has paid their hydro bill this month because we will cut anybody off. So, as was mentioned, I'm Usni Semsadini, the CEO of London Hydro. We are proud to be the presenting sponsor at this marquee event, and I'd like to thank the Chamber and Graham for giving us this opportunity. London Hydro is celebrating its 116th year of operations. As an organization with a long history in the city, you may already know that our purpose is to be a trusted provider of electricity, but you may not be aware that we also strive to be a strong community partner, and events like this help us strengthen that bond and embrace what makes London great. As part of our video introduction, you may have noticed a fresh look to our brand. We believe it is important to provide this visual cue to our customers so they realize change is happening within Hydro as it is happening within our city. We have embraced a new vision: to earn every customer. Although this may not seem earth-shattering to most in this room, it's a sea change for a regulated monopoly that has not had to fight to earn anything. I'm sure we may not always get it right, but it's important that we try every day. While we are moving towards this new future, we're still proud of our past and the investments we've made in this community, including a 2026 capital plan valued at $80 million of local investment and a multi-year strategy that will see us invest more in the next decade than we have in the last century. These investments will increase system capacity, improve reliability, and decrease the cost of building new homes. As always, we will ensure to accomplish this with a safety-first attitude. London Hydro is committed to help drive economic development in our region. Utilities can either be seen as enablers of development or barriers to growth. It's my hope that London Hydro does its part to make London the best city to live, work, or invest. I know this is a shared vision by Council, and I look forward to hearing more about it by the Mayor. It's now my honor to introduce Josh Morgan, the 65th Mayor of the City of London. Josh doesn't just love the city, he bleeds it. He's been a strong partner to my organization, and I know all of you in the room can say the same. Mayor Morgan is helping build a better city, not only for his 4 children, but for all Londoners. I'm looking forward to hearing more from Josh about his vision for London and the progress that has been made with Council over the last 4 years. Please join me in welcoming His Worship, Mayor Josh Morgan.
Well, thank you, and good morning, everyone. I want to start today by also thanking the London Chamber for hosting and RBC Place for welcoming us once again to this beautiful venue. To my colleagues on City Council, our senior leadership team, and the thousands of London employees who serve this community each and every day, thank you for your professionalism, your dedication, and your deep commitment to public service. I am proud every day to work along each and every one of you. And that dedication was on full display over the holidays when London experienced almost every kind of weather imaginable in the span of just a few days. While many gathered with family and friends, our city staff were out on our streets making sure that the city kept moving and the city was safe for everyone. Your service does not pause, and it certainly does not go unnoticed. And to our friends at London Hydro, especially the over 100 employees who were called in during the ice storm to get the power back on for thousands of Londoners, thank you for your dedication to our city, and thank you for all that you do, and especially keeping the power on during an event like this. A warm welcome also to the elected officials and Indigenous leaders representing areas across our region, and to our federal and provincial partners who have joined us today. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all that you do on behalf of your communities and your constituents. Quite simply, the London region cannot achieve its full potential without your support and partnership. And finally, I want to thank members of my family who joined me today. My mom, my partner, and my daughter Ainsley, who I think many of you know in the room. I appreciate everything you do to support me, and of course for sharing this morning with me today. And to my staff, I want to thank you for writing a great speech that I'm not going to give today. Because when we talked about how I wanted to do this, you'll notice I don't have teleprompters this time. I basically have just a couple of intro notes. And I wanted to just actually talk a little bit off the cuff on some really important issues facing our city. And when we talk about issues, I'm not afraid to talk about the tough issues. So I'm going to start off talking today about property taxes. Municipal governments are in a really tough spot. For every tax dollar collected in this country, we collect just 9 cents, and yet we're responsible for 60% of the infrastructure. We really only have 3 main sources of revenue: property taxes, user fees, and government grants. But at the same time, we're a fast-growing city. We face tremendous costs, and we don't participate in the benefits of a fast-growing city. Economic growth, economic activity, wage appreciation, those revenues don't fill up municipal coffers. They fill up federal and provincial coffers. And so our partnership with the provincial and federal governments is critical to us being able to supply the critical services that Londoners count on. And often those revenues and those benefits don't line up perfectly. And cities face tremendous pressure on property taxes to try to keep just those basic services that Londoners and those who live in municipalities depend on each and every day. They have to address critical infrastructure that in some cases has not been invested in for decades. And what many cities do in those situations is they let their infrastructure crumble, or they don't invest in the services that Londoners or their municipalities might need. What did our municipal council do when we took office? We didn't do that. We took a really honest look at how to develop a strategic plan that was authentic and genuine, and looked at the challenges our city faced and put forward one that was clear, transparent, that delivered on the services Londoners need and dealt with the critical infrastructure we needed to invest in. What we saw when we did that is we were going to face, in the first year of our multi-year budget, about a 15% tax increase in just the first year. We worked really hard on that budget, and we brought that increase down to about 7.7% in 2024 and 6.6% in 2025. Still historically high levels of taxation. But what we did do is we didn't push things down the road. We invested in critical services, and we made record investments in libraries, transit, infrastructure, housing, and public safety. At the same time, we recognized that these historic levels of taxes were not sustainable for Londoners who are facing an affordability crisis. So we made smart decisions as a municipal council. We tackled debt and debt avoidance. And during this term of council and during the budgets that I've tabled as mayor, we have paid down or avoided issuing over $81.7 million of municipal debt. And for context, every $20 to $25 million of debt is about $2 to $3 million in principal and interest payments. And so by paying down that $87.1 million or avoiding issuing it in the first place, we're avoiding millions and millions of principal and interest payments that we don't have to pay, my mom doesn't have to pay, my daughter Ainsley won't have to pay in the future when she starts paying taxes, and her kids won't have to pay. At the same time, we recognize that there is this expectation that government can be more efficient. And when I first got elected as a city councilor in 2014, I pushed to bring forward a new service review program for the city. We were going to dig deep into every area, department by department, Lean Six Sigma, zero-based budgeting, program and governance reviews. And after a decade of service review, which started in 2016, we have avoided taxing to the tune of $323 million. We have found $323 million in savings that we did not have to go to the taxpayer for, while still maintaining and providing the same level of service and making the investments we needed to make. So now we're in a position by taking these two actions that while others across this province are seeing dramatic pressure on property taxes, we're one of the lowest tabled in the budget this year. We started at an estimated 6.4%. I stood on this stage and said, we're going to set a target of 5. We came in with a budget of 3.4. We got one step left in the process this spring, setting tax ratios and tax policy. And if we do that well, we may even be in the low 3s or even the upper 2s. Now, one of the things we invested in, and I want to say, when you invest dollars, if you're like me, you don't like opening your wallet and spending money, but if you know you get value for it, it's a little easier to do. Well, I stood up on this stage a couple years ago, and I said we were going to make a historic investment in public safety in this community, and that we were going to couple that with a historic level of accountability. So today is Accountability Day. What did you get for what you paid for the last 2 years? Well, over the past 2 years, we saw a 38% reduction in homicides, a 45% reduction in carjackings, a 25% reduction in break-and-enters, a 64% reduction in motor vehicle thefts. And while we provided all of that service, we saw a 70% decline in service complaints against the London Police Service. When you call the police, they're coming faster now, faster than they have before. And Priority 1 calls are now their fastest level in recent years, from just over 10 minutes down to just over 9. And Priority 3 calls, we've made significant gains. Those non-emergency calls where you still expect someone to come have improved by 50%, from over 80 hours now down to 40. And we know there's still more work to do, and that work is coming. And on traffic enforcement, and my colleagues will tell you, often we get calls in about driving around the city. We have the highest level of traffic enforcement that we've had in the last 6 years. And we've seen a 50% reduction in motor vehicle fatalities during that time. So when I think about my kids, and it kind of terrifies me, going out and driving on our streets, or even going to school, the fact that we've made our city streets safer is something that's really important personally to me. At the same time, we said we were going to do policing differently. We put more people out on the streets. We have more patrols in our downtown. The Foot Patrol office opened. But we didn't just put officers on the street. We paired them with public health nurses and mental health workers. And those public health nurses are out there providing wound care, overdose management, and immediate support to those people on the streets who need it. It isn't just about policing, it's about getting people the care they need at that point in contact. And the chief and I have said very clearly, on open-air drug use, it's unacceptable in our city. We developed a new open-air drug strategy. And in the first phase of that strategy, between April and August last year, there were 2,911 calls for service, 1,350 police reports, almost 1,300 seizures of drugs and paraphernalia. But at the same time, with compassion, there were 760 referrals to services that people needed to get help. That's the kind of way we're doing policing now in this city. And that's the kind of thing that your investment has allowed us to do. But we recognize with violent and repeat offenders, if we're charging them and sending them to the courts, and they get out on bail and they commit more crimes, that doesn't help the situation. And so we joined police boards, the Association of Chief of Police, municipalities, and of course the mayor's groups I'm involved in. We joined together to advocate to the federal government for meaningful bail reform. And that has been delivered upon, with the federal government tabling legislation and putting forward changes that will now put the onus for those who are violent and repeat offenders to have to prove to the courts why they should be granted bail, rather than the other way around, where the Crown attorneys had to say why they should be kept on bail. I can honestly say, after 2 years, because of these initiatives and because of the actions taken, our city is safer than it was just a few years ago. And speaking of safety, the other critical service that you call upon, Middlesex London Paramedic Service, has done some phenomenal work. Yeah, I knew they were going to clap. You've done some phenomenal work. 2 amazing programs that have been launched on our streets: the Rapid Response Unit and Community Paramedicine. Seeking special permission from the provincial government, they're able to deploy not land ambulances, but paramedics out into the community faster, triaging individuals, treating them, and not necessarily having to take them to the emergency room, freeing up critical capacity at our hospitals. And while they did that, something pretty amazing happened. I got a text from Health Minister Jones congratulating our city on being the first Canadian city to deploy an all-Canadian-made ambulance on our streets. That's pretty amazing. When we yes, yeah. When we think about Buy Canadian and we encourage that, municipal governments can be part of that solution as well, and we'll continue to do that. Now, the other thing you've heard me talk about up here on this stage a lot is housing, housing affordability, and housing development. And in my campaign in 2022, I pledged to build 50,000 new homes in London over a 10-year period. That following February of 2023, our council adopted a pledge to the provincial government to build 57,000 new homes by 2031. And I know Minister Flack is here today. He's probably here to check up on how we're doing. But Minister Flack is here today, and let me tell you, Minister, last year in 2025, our council approved permissions for 17,000 new homes. And that's on top of the 23,000 we authorized the year before in 2024. And with almost 1 year to go in this term, this council has already permitted approvals for 51,000 new homes in this city. Thank you. But we recognize that permissions aren't places to live. So we worked hard to see if we could turn those permissions into actual permits and buildings. And I'm proud to say that last year, we issued a record 5,462 new residential permits, which is 35% above our previous historical high. We have never issued more permits in this city, and the value of those permits reached $2.7 billion in construction value, breaking our 2024 record by $500 million. There is confidence in this city. People are choosing to spend their money here, and they're choosing to build here. And when we build, we have never built more inward and upward than we ever have before. Respecting our climate pledge initiatives and our climate commitments, I remember when we passed the London Plan, we set an ambitious target of 45% intensification for all builds. And that felt like a stretch goal at the time. We even talked about not putting the number at 45%. But in 2025, we not only met the London Plan target, we blew right through it, reaching a record intensification rate of 54%. You can clap for that. That means we're taking advantage of existing infrastructure. We're building smarter. We're using those water and sewer capacities, and we're saving you dollars, and we're providing homes for people in this city. So while other cities are struggling to get housing built and housing in the ground, you're probably asking, how did we do this? How did London, Ontario buck the trend and actually get housing done in 2025? Well, we developed really smart incentive programs. And we tried new things, and not all of them worked out. And we adjusted some of them because we were honest with our programs to say we were going to try to make incentive programs that actually incentivized building. You heard me on this stage talk about the Office to Residential Conversion Program, and that's been a great success. The results, 190 new residential units are approved and underway where vacant office space once stood. And 149 of those are right here in the downtown core of our city. We recognize that people might want to bring their parents and live with them. And so additional residential units is something we had to be permissive on. Whether you want to build an additional unit in your house or you want to build a new freestanding structure out back, we enabled that. We legalized it. And we saw more than 1,100 ARUs approved in our city. We developed transit-oriented grants for new residential development along our rapid transit routes. And we saw over 660 new units approved through that program. On affordable housing, excuse me, on affordable housing, we developed the Dollars for Doors program for affordable and highly supportive housing. And last year, 6 developments were approved, representing 548 units, 263 of those affordable, and 115 supportive housing, just last year. And more are coming, and more are on the way, but we've already exceeded our target in the roadmap to 3,000 of 300 supportive units. We brought back the Affordable Homeownership Program with $25,000 forgivable down payment loans for current renters, so that they might have the opportunity to get into homeownership for the first time. The results, 43 applications have been approved and over 900,000 in loans have been committed. And we're getting national attention now. Our success is getting noticed. Recently, the Globe and Mail ranked us #1 in the country for rental housing affordability. And if you go out there into the rental market, you see rates starting to come down, and it's not uncommon to see first and last month's rent now included, something unheard of just a few years ago. But nowhere is it more important to build than in our downtown core. It's the heart of our city. And as I just spoke about office residential conversions, I want you to know of those 190 units we approved, 40% of the downtown units are deeply affordable. And in case you wonder what 180,000 square feet of vacant commercial office space looks like, that's about 6 times the size of this room. 6 times the size of this room in office space that was sitting vacant, sometimes for upwards of 6, 8, maybe even 10 years. And now that vacant office space is being turned into homes for people to live right here in the core of our city. And the private sector is getting behind us as well. Almost 700 new residential units were built in 2025 from private developers in the downtown core. And this term of council, we're approaching 1,500 new units created in the downtown. That's 1,500 units, not bedrooms, units, representing thousands of new people living right here in the core of our city. And we know when you get people to live in the core, they walk out their front doors, then they support businesses. They go to the market, they go to restaurants, they shop in our downtown. And although we've lost some businesses, we've gained more. And there's been a net gain of 30 new businesses in the downtown opened in the past 3 years. And I want to recognize, and there's a lot of people who do a lot of work on this, that downtown is the cultural hub of our city. It's where festivals, concert, and entertainment collide. And it is a sector that is thriving. And I want to give one example, the Grand Theater. Last year, the Grand Theater sold a record number of subscriptions, 6,000. 6,000 subscriptions from people who've decided they want to go and enjoy phenomenal theater right here in our downtown core. What does that actually mean? That means they sold 100,000 individual tickets to theater in our city. 100,000 people coming downtown, enjoying great theater, but also visiting restaurants and supporting local businesses and experiencing this amazing part of our city. And that's just the beginning. We're on the verge of receiving the information on a new downtown plan. But in the meantime, we recognize we've got to continue to keep the momentum going, and we initiated a series of quick start actions, including bringing back permanent 2-hour free parking on downtown streets. And I don't know where you parked today. Yeah. They parked here, yeah. And in case you're wondering how to access that, you use the Honk mobile app, and when you get to the payment, you punch in the word CORE. That's a promo code. With all that building and all that development, we know infrastructure is critical. And I talked about this off the top. If you don't invest in the city's infrastructure, if you let it crumble, it only catches up with you down the road and it's only more expensive to fix. Well, this council didn't do that. We invested $310 million of infrastructure spending this year, reaching almost $1 billion over this term of council. And the type of infrastructure we're building is across the board. On roads, we completed the Adelaide Street underpass. And if you're one of the 26,000 people a day who now gets to drive under a train rather than getting stopped at it, you know how important this critical infrastructure is. But more importantly, that is a critical emergency services corridor. That means land ambulances, police, and fire are not being stopped or finding another way around a train. They're getting to your call quicker. That's what investing in infrastructure does. But infrastructure is also municipal parks. And when I ran for office, I said we were going to invest above and beyond our Parks and Rec Master Plan. And Council supported the creation of a Neighborhood Parks Improvement Fund, and we are now upgrading parks across the city above and beyond what we normally would have. 23 have been completed, and there were 2,500 Londoners who came out to celebrate those local investments in their community. Infrastructure spending doesn't have to be in the ground or in the downtown or on our streets. It could be right in your neighborhood, improving great services that you and your families can enjoy. And I have to talk about sewer capacity. It's not the sexiest topic, but if you're doing all this housing, one of the things that we are challenged with is making sure that we have the capacity to continue to build these homes. And so I want to thank Minister Flack and the Premier and his government for helping us invest in the downtown Thames siphon, a project that will balance loads between existing sewer capacities and open up development for 17,000 new homes in the downtown core. And for those who clapped about the traffic, we've done that project without closing or blocking off streets. So one of the few. And as the City of London, and I know that there are other regional mayors and wardens and councillors here, Mayor Holder and I last term brought forward a motion to council to recognize London as a regional transportation hub. We recognize that we are the gateway to the city, or to the world, not just for Londoners, but for those who live in the surrounding communities. And so in respecting that regional mobility hub, we developed a new master mobility plan which touched all modes of transportation across our city. So whether you drive, take rapid transit, conventional transit, cycle, or walk, the Master Mobility Plan will set out our infrastructure spending from a mobility perspective for the next 25 years. And we are well positioned now to take advantage of federal and provincial programs on transportation infrastructure because we have a plan in place that is approved and ready to go. We recognize, too, that we need to invest in community transit between our cities. And we supported initiatives in partnership with the counties around us to support inter-community transit service in our budgets and theirs, in partnership again with the provincial government. And I think we can all recognize that one of the things that we continue to need in our city is better rail connections. I want to first commend Via Rail for making substantial investments in the station and platforms here at the London Station. But those station and platforms are only good as the frequency and reliability of the rail that comes to them. And so we have embarked on an aggressive new advocacy campaign, not just by ourselves, but in regional partnerships. And I recently traveled with 3 area wardens and municipal councillors to the Roma conference to meet with provincial officials and prepare our advocacy federally. Because as the federal government dreams of nation-building projects and better transportation connections across this country, we cannot let Southwestern Ontario be left behind for better rail service. And as we connect people across the city, I want to turn to the economy. Recognized as a UNESCO city, creativity is an economic driver in our city. And I already talked about the Grand Theatre, but I want to tell you, just last year, Film London achieved something pretty amazing. They generated over $1 million of revenue and $200,000 in hotel stays right here in our city. The Children's Museum, if you've read the news lately, had their best year ever at their new location. 250,000 people visited the Children's Museum since they went to that new location last year. And 80,000 of them were tourists to our city coming here and spending their dollars here, making an economic injection into this economy. And on tourism, we recently passed the $1 billion per year mark. I don't think we often think about ourselves as a place where people come for tourism, but $1 billion a year says otherwise. We have amazing features in this city, and people are coming here to see and enjoy them from around the country. Our tech sector continues to be one of the fastest growing in Canada, and we've reached number 4 on the Next 25 in North America list with a sector growth rate of 54%. And we know, too, industrial development is critically important to good paying jobs in our city. That's why Council updated our industrial land development strategy and positioned ourselves well for the province and federal governments who are onshoring and securing Canadian supply chains. We've become an agri-food powerhouse here in our city. Places like Andriana Pasta building their first factory outside of Italy, right here in London, to access the North American market. Oh, I don't know if maybe they're here, or they just really like pasta. But there is a new industrial partner here in the room, Huffman Industries. They purchased 5 acres in one of our industrial parks and built a new 30,000 square foot facility and created 25 jobs here in our city. Thanks for being here today. And thanks to the LADC, I get to announce a new industrial partner that you haven't heard of yet. M Park Spray Tech is going to build a new 200,000 square foot facility here in our city in our industrial parks, creating over 150 new great paying jobs in our city. Thanks to them for their investment and confidence in this part of our country. And they're joined by all of the existing manufacturers and those who have made investments before them. And as the federal government talks about increased defense spending, I have to mention General Dynamics and the 1,800 employees and the massive supply chain that they have here in our city and across Ontario. We're well positioned to take advantage of that federal government spending right here in our city. And as we create all of these jobs, we know we need job seekers to fill those positions. And the LADC recently let me know that their job portal has now received over 100,000 visits per month, showing an interest from people in London and beyond who want to come here and work in all of these jobs that are being created. Now, one of the things I want to talk to you about today is the thing that I talked about at my first State of the City, and it was the first topic I addressed. And I was a little bit different because often these speeches are about all the things I've talked about: infrastructure, investments, industrial announcements. But homelessness continues to be one of the biggest challenges we face as a city. When I ran, I made a commitment, because I went back and looked at my platform recently, to build 200 units of supportive housing. And we found that we needed more than that. And this council has approved over 400 units of supportive housing so far. And supportive housing, places like House of Hope and Thompson Road, help people transform their lives, help them find pathways to a better future. And not only that, it helps the rest of the community because it takes pressure off of critical emergency services. And for people who have gone through those supportive housing programs, we see an 83% reduction in emergency room visits. And remember, an emergency room visit is about $1,400 a night. We also see a 61% reduction in inpatient stays at hospitals and a 63% reduction in days in custody. When you give people the proper supports, it not only transforms their lives, it benefits the whole community. And in fact, there's one individual in our supportive housing who spent 10 years outside, 10 years living outside. And during one of those years, he visited the ER 221 times in 1 year. Since he's been in supportive housing, he's reduced that demand by 96% to just 9 visits. That's helping people. That's transforming someone's life. And that's taking pressure off of critical services. We built 2 hubs in this city, and Atlosa and YOU have helped over 150 people at those locations. And with those hubs, we inspired a province-wide program. And again, I want to commend the provincial government for creating a heart hub system, a network of hubs across this province approaching 30. We have one here in London, but when that application went out, there were over 90 communities interested in hosting a heart hub. We know that people want to host services for residents who need their help right there in communities across this province. And although we can do a lot in the City of London to help those in need, we cannot do it all. We require a provincial-wide and national strategy to make progress on this. And I want to talk about progress. Progress is really hard to see. I don't know how you came here today, but depending how you did, you probably saw someone living on the streets, whether it's on Dundas Place, in the doorway of a business, in a municipal park, in Old East Village. You probably saw someone outside and thought, why haven't we made any progress? Progress is hard to see. I'm going to help you see what we've done today. If you're at an odd-numbered table, so just check your table number. If you're at an odd-numbered table, I want you to stand up. Odd-numbered tables. Everybody at an odd-numbered table. I want you to look around. There are 600 people standing right now. 600 people represents the number of people that if you look on our streets, you don't see anymore because we help them find stable, secure housing. They're not in a park. They're not in the doorway of a business. They're not on the streets of downtown or Old East Village. They're in a home now, often with proper supports. If we're going to make progress and we're going to help people, these are the people you can't see on the streets. This is the progress you can't see because they're not out there anymore. It was cold last night. All of these people standing didn't have to find shelter, didn't need an emergency warming center. I want you to stay standing because I want to tell you something even more amazing. These 600 people are just the people we helped in 2025. I want everyone else in the room to stand up now. Every single person at every single table. And if you're at the back, because there aren't enough people in the room for this number, stand up too. Since I stood on this stage, since we got that $25 million donation, since we said we were going to be a city to act and do something to help the most vulnerable in our city, we have helped almost 1,500 people leave the streets of our city and find stable, secure housing with the proper supports. That's what we've done as a community. That's the progress we've made. That's how we've shown that we're a compassionate community. You're not out on the streets tonight searching for a warm place to stay. You are in stable, secure housing, and that's the difference we've made over the past 3 years. You can sit down now. What does that actually mean? That means we've helped and housed about 41 people a month. 41 people a month every month for the past 3 years. Our staff, our partners, those doing outreach, those, in this working every day have worked tirelessly, and we've put programs in place and we've made progress. And I will admit that progress is hard to see because homelessness has risen by 25% across the province. Now, the work we've done has bucked that trend. It's gone up 19% in London. But despite the fact that we've helped 1,500 people in our city, we still see more people falling into homelessness. And so I don't say it's time to celebrate. I do celebrate transforming the lives of those 1,500 people. But we got more people to help. And there is more to come. This week, people will move into the new micromodular shelter. And 70 more individuals will find a place to stay that isn't the streets of London, starting this week. And that program isn't even permanent housing. It's not even housing with supports. It's a new shelter. It's an emergency situation, and we funded it for 2 years. But we're making permanent spaces as well. And Cove's Landing is going to open next month. 50 supportive housing spaces. And this is that space I told you about when I said the developers came together and bought a long-term care home, partnered with Indewell, and now 50 more spaces are going to open next month. And on the heels of that, speaking of Indewell, their work at Village Soho is about to open another 138 supportive housing units over the next year. And that's not even including all of the other work of the Village Soho Alliance with affordable units, market rate units, and deeply affordable units, RGI units. That's the kind of work we've been doing. And it's difficult work because, again, we can celebrate all those things, but there's still more to do. So what do we have ahead? Before I wrap up, I want to touch on a couple of things that you can expect coming from Council this year. We're going to see Legacy Village, that transformative development at Oxford and Highbury, start to deliver the first buildings of 8,000 new residential units, which is the largest development in East London and largest investment in East London we've seen in our history. It's going to have 15,000 people living in a brand new community in that part of the city. We're building upward. We're utilizing our rapid transit routes. We're utilizing infrastructure. We're furthering our intensification and meeting our climate goals. As I said, you'll see a new downtown master plan and new actions that we'll continue to take to support and revitalize this really critical part of our city. You'll see the audit come back of our London Transit operations with recommendations for governance and future progress on transit. And on the industrial side of things, you'll see the opening of Phase 5 of our Innovation Park. And we'll accommodate new employers and new opportunities and create new jobs for Londoners with those new industrial lands that we're able to service and provide. And you'll see continued and robust ongoing advocacy with the provincial and federal governments to continue to partnership all three levels of government on issues of homelessness, housing, affordability, infrastructure, and public safety. And that work doesn't wait. I'll travel to Ottawa next week as chair of the 23 largest cities in this country, and we'll meet with federal officials and we'll continue working on those things. And then we'll go to AMO, and then we'll go to FCM, and we'll continue to partner with our federal and provincial partners to continue to make gains and invest in projects like I mentioned today. And we're only halfway through the operational plan for the London Police Service. So for all that progress and all that value you got, you're going to see more officers and more investments and better response times and better numbers in the next 2 years of that plan. And I think I've stood up here every year and made an announcement. And now that I'm at the end of the speech, you're probably thinking, is there going to be one? Well, there is. So I have an announcement to make today. Earlier this week, I issued a strong mayor direction to our staff to bring forward a new program to council for council's review and approval. A new affordable homeownership program. We've made tremendous gains on rental housing. We've been recognized for those. We see rents coming down. We see first and last month's rent included. But we continue to lag on home ownership. The opportunities that Ainsley have to own a home aren't the same as I had. It's certainly not the same as my mom had. And if we're going to make progress on that, we're going to have to try something new and something different. And we'll see how it works, and we might have to make adjustments to it. But what we're going to do is we're going to partner with the building community, and we're going to pay the development charges for new homeowners. 60% by the city, 40% by the building community. And I want to thank the London Home Builders Association for partnering on this and putting their dollars on the table. We're going to fund this with some dollars we got from the federal and provincial governments, and we're going to target affordability. So we're going to have this program only apply to those new homes that are below the average selling price in the city. So if you can build a home below those levels, the building community and the City of London will partner with you and will pay those development charges fees for you for the duration and for the conclusion of 2026. And we'll see how it goes. And Minister, if it works out really well, we're probably going to ask you for a bunch of money to continue it into 2027. So, well, let me say, I really always appreciate your time and the discussions that we can have today. I know I did things a little bit differently, but I want to conclude by saying that, while we're not always loud or dramatic about them, the achievements that we've made as a city are extremely impactful. We're investing in the future. We're improving services. We're transforming the lives of our most vulnerable, and frankly, we're saving lives in this city. In this job, I see people showing up day after day to do the kind of work that keeps the city moving forward. I see entrepreneurs who choose to build and grow their businesses right here, neighbors who look out for one another, and volunteers who step up and help when it's needed the most. And I have never been more proud to call London my home. But today, I want to ask for your help. Don't turn away from our challenges. Let's face them with determination. Through our 200-year history, we have proven that when we show up for this community together, there is nothing that we cannot achieve. So let's share that sense of ownership that is London, Ontario. It fuels our progress, it strengthens our resolve, and it shapes a future that we can be honored to pass to the next generation. Thank you very much. Go over here.
Well, good morning, everybody. If you guys don't know me, my name's Cleveland Brownlee, and I want to echo something that the mayor said today. I know they gave us a couple questions to go through, but you knew once they gave me the mic, I was going to change it anyway. So.
Absolutely.
You know what? I could have never imagined when I first got here, coming to play baseball here, that I could call London my home. Me and Josh, we go back a couple years. I first met Josh out on the baseball field. He was one of the advocates to help bring the Blue Jays Foundation here. And I was told I can hit a ball pretty good, so that's what got me here. But Josh also stepped up and said he could as well. I ended up hitting about 30 that day. Josh, how many did you hit?
We had an average of about 15 between the two of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
About 15 home runs on average between the two of us, yeah.
Oh.
You hit 30. Yeah.
I hit 30.
Yeah, it was good. I hit one off the wall. Like, that should have counted, but...
For sure. We were out there.
Well, you know, we had like Roberto Alomar there, and I remember Roberto Alomar, I'm sitting there hitting balls into the backstop, and Roberto Alomar sitting on a stool, throwing them up at me, like one of the person I saw playing baseball when I was a kid. And he's trying to give me tips. And I'm thinking like, I'm kind of just giddy that Roberto Alomar is throwing balls to me and I'm hitting them into the backstop. Like and I said, I appreciate you're giving me tips, but I'm kind of just happy to be here. It was a great fundraiser. Yeah, it was great to do that with you.
But once again, like I say, I'm just like you. I'm glad to call London my new home now. And you know what? Things are changing here, and they're changing fast. Now, today was a new look at the city of the state. Why the new look today? And is this something new that we will see and more changes to come down the road?
Oh, you're talking about like maybe not using the teleprompter and walking the stage. Yeah, so I do want to thank my staff because they did actually write a pretty good speech. Actually, it was a really good speech. Sorry. But you know, it's funny because all the topics I talked about, and every city councilor will say this, like we like live and breathe this stuff each and every day. And so walking the stage, I don't know if it felt like a bit of a TED Talk or what, but walking the stage and just talking a little bit with a few bullet points that I had, you know, felt way more like the way that we do business as city councilors. We're always out there answering questions, and all of these topics that we have to talk about are challenges that we face each and every day in many Canadian municipalities. So I don't know what the future will hold. I guess people will let me know the feedback on whether they like that or not. But I enjoyed just having more of a conversation. I guess it wasn't a conversation, but more of a casual talk about some of these topics and sharing my insights on them. So. Yeah, we'll see what the future holds. And I know Graham and his team are always looking to see how we can make improvements to the event. It's been 47 years, but that doesn't mean each and every year they don't try something a little new, a little different.
Yeah. And you know what, honestly, I think the community appreciated this new look. You know, so Josh, you gave us some great stats on safety and security. Now, what do these numbers say to you? And looking forward, what are your expectations as mayor?
Yeah, so I mean, again, I stood up here a few years ago and I said there was going to be this historic investment in public safety and a historic level of accountability. And today I mentioned that. And I think that's really critical because, again, we spent a lot of money on public safety. But I'm of the viewpoint that if you don't have that level of basic safety in different parts of our city, if you can't count on our emergency services to be there when you need them, it's really hard to do economic development, housing development, industrial, job attraction, that sort of stuff, if you can't talk about that basic level of safety. But I want to commend the board and the London Police Service. Like, we didn't just do the things we talked about. We listened to communities who said policing needs to be different, right? So we now have, diversity at the highest levels of the organization with the chief, and when we have the highest ranking black female officer in the entire country. And the work that we've done to provide with those job opportunities, more opportunities for more people, we have more women working in policing than we ever have before. The structure of this organization is changing because of the opportunity of the investment. So it isn't just business as usual, it's how do we do better, how do we be community partners, and how do we respond in a way that provides great service, but also makes policing look different like it should. It's a community agency as much as it is a law enforcement arm. And I think the chief and the administrative team and the board really have tried to lean into that and are always looking for different ways that they can continue to improve that service. So again, I think public safety is really important for the city, but more importantly, how we do public safety is pretty critical as well.
For sure. Now, with my Southern hospitality, we always say, What are some of the things you're proud of? So now, if we look back over your last 3 years, what's one of the things you're most proud of as being mayor?
One of the things I'm most proud of, so when I prepared for this speech, and as we enter this year, I went back and I looked at the election platform, and I looked at some of the commitments that some of my colleagues made in their platforms across the city. And what's interesting is we've done, and we still got a year left, we've done like almost 95, 96% of what we said we would do. Some of it's in progress, some of it's started. I'll admit, some of it my colleagues outvoted me on, and like neighborhood decision-making and things like that. But we kind of did the things we said we were doing. And I don't know how many of you, like we hosted the AMO conference, I don't know how many of you know that, in 2026. No, 2023. 2024? I don't know, whatever my first year of mayor was. Like it's been a bit of a blur. Anyways, so as the host mayor, you get to stand up and you get to present to the 2,500 municipal officials from across the province. And what I did with my time is I actually gave it up. And my daughter Ainsley's here. She spoke to 2,500 municipal officials, her perspective. And what she talked about was, guess what, everybody? In 4 years, by the time you guys have the next election, I'm going to be old enough to vote. She was 14 at the time, 15? How old are you? 15, you're 15 at the time. 15-year-old speaking to 2,500 municipal officials saying, if you want me to vote next time, you better do what you say you're gonna do and come down to our level and communicate with us. So one of the things I'm most proud of is I listened to Ainsley. I listened to my daughter in that speech, and so I try to do what I say I'm gonna do. I try to be transparent about it, and I've spent a lot of time talking to youth in our community to say, this is why you should be involved. And so what I'm most proud of is listening to Ainsley and listening to her good advice and reaching out to the younger generations, because for all of us who serve in public service, we'll only be here so long until another generation takes over and has the reins and moves the city forward. And if we don't inspire them to be involved in civic government, then what is our city gonna look like in the future? So that's what I'm most proud of, is that sort of work.
You know what, I can respect that.
And Ainsley probably could have given that speech better than me, by the way. You gotta watch out for her in the future. I don't know if there's any ward councillors out there. We live in 7. I don't know if Corinne's running there or whoever, but she's going places, so yeah.
So if everybody doesn't know, this year, the city is celebrating its 200th year anniversary. What does this mean to you? And wondering if you might explain some of the cool things that might go on this year.
Yeah, so first off, let me say, I know people are like, it's the bicentennial, didn't we just celebrate 150 years? So there's 2 anniversaries. One is the founding of the city as a new administrative center for what was the London region. And that happened 200 years ago. Just a few days from now, 200 years ago, an act of provincial parliament on January 30th, 1826. The city was incorporated in 1855. We've also celebrated that. But 100 years ago, we had a centennial celebration, so a bicentennial seems pretty appropriate. And I got to work with amazing people like Robin Armistead and others to just learn about the history of our city and all the things we have to celebrate. We've got certainly challenges, and we've worked through different struggles as a community. We certainly approach Indigenous reconciliation in a way that wasn't consistent throughout our history. But we got a really cool community to be proud of. And so, one of the things I didn't say in the speech that I'm gonna do is, the mayor 100 years ago, I learned this in the research, created an award and a coin and different things. So I thought, you know what, we have the Mayor's New Year's Honors List, and that celebrates people who contribute each and every year in different categories. So this year, on Canada Day, we're gonna start a new award in the bicentennial year for lifetime achievement of a Londoner in contributing to the city, and we'll have more details of that in the coming weeks. But I think the bicentennial needs to be about a celebration of people in our community as much as it is about a celebration of the history of our community. So I'm going to do some work on that coming up this year.
Now, you say the future of the downtown looks bright. There's lots of people moving here, private investment is strong. So what's the next step?
Well, this is one of the challenges that GRIB's Council is, for decades, we've tried to figure out how to meet the challenge of a downtown that in some cases is in decline, in other cases it's got an upward swing, but a lot of inconsistency. We had a lot of headquarters here, and during that time we generated a lot like a lot of office space. And as London no longer became a headquarters for insurance companies and other things, we had this excess office space. And we know that office space and businesses in that way isn't going to return in the same way, whether it's remote work or just the dynamics of a city. We got a new downtown plan coming, but I think that there's two real critical pieces to the future. One is, how do we get some of that commercial office space, that vacant office space, off the books? And the Office of Residential Conversion Program is one. How do we recruit new businesses in the downtown core? Public safety and security of the downtown is pretty important to that. But this council is also taking a look at how do we get people living in this core? How do we make downtown a neighborhood of its own? And so for the 1,500 units that we've approved as a council so far, we need to approve thousands more. And we need to get people living in this part of the city. And that's how you get things like a grocery store, feet on the street, and vibrancy, and support for local businesses. We got a lot going for us, but I don't think the strategy is to convince everybody in the suburbs to come downtown each and every way. Part of it is celebrating and encouraging people to come downtown. Part of it's celebrating the cultural vibrancy of our downtown, but part of it's getting people to live there. And part of it's finding strategies to deal with the excess office space, which we're beginning to do now as a council, and that work will continue ahead. And the downtown plan will have a bunch of new initiatives associated with it that we'll be able to look at and then move forward on. And I'm optimistic on the downtown. Like I really am. In talking with people over the last couple of years, they feel better about things. They like the direction it's going, and they're starting to see as these buildings open, they're starting to feel the presence of people on the street. I mean, we have the new tallest building in the city now, downtown in the Centro. And that's a residential tower. The new tallest building is not a commercial tower anymore. It's a residential tower, signifying that the downtown is a place for people to live as well.
One of the things I'm excited about is just seeing the downtown evolve. Me coming to London, that was one of my biggest draws. Downtown was a vibrant feel and all of that, so I'm looking forward to seeing that coming.
Yeah, there's good baseball downtown too, right? Yeah.
There's great baseball. And with that being said, how do you feel about the London Majors now becoming a part of the Canadian Baseball League? There's going to be a lot of people downtown, and it's an all-professional league, so it's going to bring people from all around to the city to spend more money in the city, businesses, hotels, everything like that. So how do you feel about that?
I feel great. One of the things when I talk about London, outside the city, they say, what makes London special? Well, what makes London special is kind of our history and our geographic location. It means we're not Toronto. So guess what? We don't have a Major League Baseball franchise or an NHL team, but we have amazing hockey in the city. We have amazing baseball in the city. We have an amazing sports culture in this city, and we have a little bit of everything. We got entertainment, we got businesses, we got natural heritage. We're really a complete city. And baseball and what the London Majors have done and how that organization has evolved, I think is just a part of the growing evolution of a mid-sized and growing city, taking sports excellence to the next and the next and the next level as we become a more mature and larger city. So I love baseball. And if you've never been to a game, it's a lot of fun. Good hot dogs too.
Best hot dogs in the city.
And I got to tell you, so I remember Cleveland and I talked about this. He's like, I'm really nervous about coming up there at the front. There's 1,200 people. I was like, are you kidding me? I had to throw out a baseball at a first pitch of one of these games, and I was terrified to throw that sucker in the dirt, right? I'm way more afraid than I am to come up here on a stage, right? So we both have our fears, but it's been great to engage with you, and the work that the London Majors have done to create sports excellence in our city is really phenomenal. Yeah. And thanks for hitting so many home runs. That's really cool too.
You know what?
Yeah. And on Cleveland, this guy he's not a sports guy. When we're out at Clean and Green and when we're out at events, this guy's a community volunteer as well. I see him out at as many events as I'm at, and the organizations and the businesses you're involved in are investing in and helping with our city, Clean and Green being just one example. So I want to thank you, Cleveland, for not just being kind of a sports hero for many in the city, but for actually taking that active role in the city. And I think that's what actually makes London great. And my call to action at the end was kind of that. Do what you're great at, but do other things to help with our city as well. Be a part of our community in multiple different ways. And your life will be more fulfilling and more rewarding for doing that. And you can be phenomenal and you can be at the highest level of something, but doing volunteer work and helping people in our community and being part of something bigger is even more rewarding. So thank you for what you do, Cleveland.
And honestly, Josh, I just want to say one more time, thank you for having me up here. You know what, London's opened his arms to me, from the community service I do to the businesses I help run and all the volunteer service. Thank you for everything that you do. London, thank you for being such an amazing city. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Eady, representing Deloitte, one of our platinum sponsors today.
Sure, you're welcome to stay. Good morning, everybody. What a privilege it is to be here today. On behalf of Deloitte, I want to extend our appreciation and thanks to the Mayor Josh Morgan for his leadership in sharing his vision for the future of our city. And a huge thank you to our fellow sponsors. We were trying to figure out how long Deloitte's actually been a sponsor of this event, and it precedes many of the partners that are here today. So we estimate it's been about 25 years, and we're super proud to be here. As well, thank you to the Chamber for putting on this amazing event. As many mentioned, you look around the room, it's one of the largest events that we've ever hosted. From side to side, there's about 1,200 people here today. And London's ecosystem is truly remarkable. It's built on innovation, collaboration, and a shared belief in the city's potential. As a senior manager in our tax practice at Deloitte, I'm proud to support all of the businesses in their non-dilutive funding journeys. A great success story coming right out of this city is a company who sadly couldn't be here today, but I'll tell you why after. They started in the Medical Innovation Fellowship at Western. What started as a small idea amongst a few founders turned into an actual business. We've been by their side supporting them however we could, and today they're actually in Boston pitching their seed round to investors, and they just signed a major deal with a medical institution there. Stories like this reflect what is possible when local talent, institutions, and industry come together, and Deloitte is certainly proud to be part of this movement. Thank you again for the opportunity to be part of this inspiring day. We hope that you enjoyed yourself, and thank you to everyone for making London the best place to live and to work.
So that's it, folks. I want to thank my board and my staff. So if you're a board member or a staff member, would you mind just standing up? Are you? I don't think you are. Oh, there they are. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And it helps me because Cleveland has just joined our board, and boy, are we happy. And we're going to be entering a team in the new league. I just want to mention my staff, Julia Cunningham, who is our Director of Events. Julia is the one who puts this together, obviously, with our team, but let's give her a big round of applause. Also, Kristen, Elise, Andrew, Sylvia, Diego, Raphael, Kaylee Temple. This is a small team, but it's an amazing team, and I can't thank them enough. Thank you, Mayor, today for doing this with us. I'll just remind everybody before we let you go that we have another great event coming up on the 31st of March, the Business Achievement Awards. It's available for registering. We're going to have another crowd like this and some amazing finalists to put in front of you all. So thank you and have a wonderful day.